Hello everybody, how are you doing today? My name is Sam Wilde. I am the artistic director and designer behind cardboardadventures.co.uk, my theatre company and craft pattern website. And today I'm here to show you how to make our new pattern, our pumpkin head pattern. It's been hugely popular, which I can understand. Oh, Halloween's just around the corner. And I'm going to show you how to do it today. So the first step you need to do is you need to head over to our website, cardboardadventures.co.uk, where you will be able to find the pattern itself and download it. So it comes in two parts. The first part is the pattern pieces. So these gives you all the shapes you need to cut out of cardboard. And they also, a lot of them have these arrows, and that shows you the specific direction of the grain, but I will talk more about that in just a second. And the other part of it is this. So this is an illustrated step-by-step guide, a bit like Lego instructions, that show you what to do and how to put it together. But I will have some new hints and tips for you in this video if there's any of this bit you are struggling. It is one of our trickier patterns. Okay, onto the cardboard. Stop this talking, Sam. Get onto this cardboard. Right, so most of these pieces fit onto an A4 sheet, like this and these. We do have some that spill over though. So the main thing we have on this one is our side pieces. Now in order to attach those together, it's really straightforward. What I like to do is I get my craft knife and I cut along the dotted line of just the centre piece, and I'll explain that in just a second. There we go, cut off those centre pieces. So I end up with something that looks a bit like that, and I'm just going to join these together. So A1 will join to A1. So for this, here's the top, so you see it says A1 here, that joins to that. So I'm just going to get a bit of tape, trusty old tape, these things together. A1 to A1, A2 to A2, B1 to B1, B2 to B2, and so on. Then I will do the same thing with A3, A4, B3, B4, I do anything else. And I should end up with something like this, and then I would cut these shapes out of cardboard. Now this line here, as I said earlier, is the grain line. Now that is super important, especially for this pattern. Cardboard, let me find a little scrappy bit, has a natural grain to it, and you can see it here. If you look down here, this is the fluting, and that gives us the grain that runs in this direction. So if my fluting is running this way, that's the way I want it. You see here, so my fluting is running that way, my grain is running that way. It means that it will bend in that direction. And as we are creating a nice rounded curved shape, that is super important. So do double check to make sure you get your grains running in the right direction. The other thing I will say about this pattern, so most of it is made up of these pieces, the side pieces. They're super important, and there are 16 of them, so we need to cut this out 16 times. Now we're not going to print this 16 times, that would be foolishness. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut out one, and then you're going to draw around that and copy it out 15 more times, sorry. Now one thing I would really recommend, cut that first one out and write on it test or pattern or master, and draw around that one each time. If you draw around that one and then draw around the next one and draw around the next one, each one will be slightly different, which is fine if you're doing 1 or 2 or 3, but because we're doing 16, you might end up with some quite dramatic differences if you do that. So pick one and draw around that one loads of times. Now do not worry, I am not going to make you sit here and watch me cut out all these pieces. I've already got them cut out. 16 side pieces. Now, before I say anything else, this pattern can be made with any sort of cardboard you've got. However, the thinner cardboard, the better for this. You want to make it so it's got single wall. You see that there? It's not very thick, it's single wall. The double wall stuff, the thicker stuff, here we go, a big scrappy bit of it here. That's just going to be so much harder for you. So you want to take the single wall. Now this is the sort of stuff we find mostly in delivery packages. Most big businesses will deliver their stuff to you in single wall cardboard. What's the thickness of it? It is got about 3 millimeters. Okay. This is what we need. Now the next step I'm going to do, I'm going to get 2 of these bits, I'm going to put them like this, making sort of wing shapes here, and then I'm going to squash the edges and I'm going to pre-roll that. Let me show you what I mean. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm pre-curving it. It's going to bend like this, so I'm just going to run my fingers so it's already got a little bit of a bend in it. Pre-curving those. They all pre-curve the same way. Now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to do this with my finger, but you can use a handle of a pen. Oh, look, I've got a spoon here, a little wooden spoon, I'll use that. And we're going to squash the outside curve all the way along. So we really flatten that edge here, so it's tapered. I've squashed all the way along here, flattering that edge. And that edge is going to join to this edge here. So I'm going to do the same on that. So the 2 squashed edges should join together. And that is going to really help us. You don't want to flatten the whole thing because it needs to have some rigidity. But those 2 edges here that are going to join have been squashed so they taper in closely together. Okay? And then the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to get my trusty masking tape. And I am going to just start joining these 2 bits together with tape. Now, more thinner bits of tape are better. I'm going to squeeze those edges together. You don't want to put one big bit of tape, that's not going to do it for you. You want lots of little bits of tape. The other thing that's going to make this a lot easier for you is a good quality craft tape. Okay, so the tape I use, there's a link to it on my website. If you go to the pattern as well, there should be a clickable link. So if you click on the picture of tape, it should take you to what I buy. It's not available all over the world, unfortunately, so you may have to just do a little bit of shopping around. We all know it, some tape holds really well, some tape doesn't. You want the stuff that's going to hold well, but that you can peel off clean. Most craft tapes will do that. Most masking tapes are a bit hit and miss. So a good craft tape will really help. So this is coming along. You see I'm putting loads of bits of tape on there. All the way along that join. And because I've squashed it, it's sort of bowing out a little bit already. Okay, it's already taking that shape. They're not flat together. I've squashed those and I'm joining those squashed ends together. I always would as well pay particular attention to the top and the bottom. So I've made sure that I've got a bit of tape at the top. I've made sure there's a bit of tape at the bottom. I've not left those things. Now that is our first step. And you can see how that's going to join together. So this is one of these sections. There we go. So that when we pop it out, it will take that shape. Now unfortunately, there's a lot more of this to do, so I'm probably going to speed this up, but it's going to be the same system for all of these. I'm going to flatten that edge, I'm going to tape them together. There we go, so there's another one. And I'm going to join these 2 together now as I go. Now I haven't squashed these edges, but I'm going to join those central edges together. Exactly the same way, lots of little bits of tape. I'm going to keep it as tight as I can. Really join those bits together. Keep them flush and straight and nice. So you see there, I've joined 2 together. And you can see how that's going to take shape already. So the next step, these bits, these tricky bits, so they do come undone. So once you've got it in shape, you might find that you need to redo a few of those. And I'm going to squeeze those 2 bits together a bit more, just so I know they're really solidly joined. Okay, so that's step 1, and you need to do that with all 16 of those now. And I'm definitely going to speed this bit up. And there we have it. So you should end up with something a bit like this. Now, as I've been going through, I've been repeating that thing. I've been squashing those edges. After I've done one, I've just pushed this down as well, just to make sure all my tape is really secure. And one thing that I noticed that I did, that I didn't set out to do, but I have been squeezing those inner edges as well as I've been going along. So that's essentially the same thing as squashing them. Going through and squeezing them. I've also put much more tape, as you can see, much bigger pieces and much more tape on this as I've been going on. I've practically entirely covered this one. So the inner edge you can put a bit more down. In fact, I think I might just take a moment just to fill in some of those little gaps on the inside, because I think it might save a little bit of time. It might even save us gluing those together. And those sort of inside edges that point in towards you, they are tricky to glue. So if we can get the tape just to do the job, why not? If you can make your life a little bit easier and do no harm to others, why wouldn't you? Okay? Life's hard enough. There we go, I think that'll do. So what I've just done there is just fill in some of those gaps. I've used the same tape and I've still done it in those little bits. I think that's important. If you tried to do that in one long strip, you wouldn't get as solid a joint. I could probably use longer strips than I've used if you're going to cover it all. But the short skips just give you a more solid curved line. Okay, now this next bit is a little bit tricky, but you can see what we should end up with. Now the next step is to join those two edges together. Okay, so this edge with this edge, and it just means reaching inside and doing the best you can. We can secure it later once we pop the pumpkin out and we can get inside of it, but this little bit's a bit tricky. So we're just doing exactly the same as we did before. We're going through it and we're taping that edge as far along as we can reach. It's just a harder place to access. I will try and do a good camera close-up on this as soon as I've got a couple of bits in place. There we go, so I've taped all as much as I can along that join. It's not going to be as neat as all the others because I had to do it mostly by touch, but I've made sure that I've got the bottom and the top done. Now you should see it looks a little bit like a weird rocket or a space fruit. The next step is to pop it out. Now I know a few people found this to be a bit tricky, but as I say, those steps we've taken before this, using thinner cardboard, making sure that our edges are squashed down, using a good tape, should hopefully make it easier. Like, you can manage it with the thicker cardboard, but it is going to make your life a little bit more tricky. Right, so the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to put one hand on the inside, I'm going to put one hand on top, and I'm going to leverage it against my chest. So I'm pushing down with that, and I'm pushing down with this hand, and I'm just using this hand to guide it all out. And it's sort of gentle but firm pressure. And you do have some bits that come undone sometimes. We can fix those. You see, this is one thing that does happen, is those two bits are stuck together. So if I can just separate those out, there we go. I thought we were going to have an issue for a moment. But because those two bits stuck together, it made it harder. So it's just keeping an eye and making sure that all the pieces are separated. That's what this hand is meant to be doing, separating out evenly, and keeping that pressure on. I'm going to do that again. Let's do that again. I'll close it back up. So I'm going to put my hand on it here and put my hand on the inside, pressing it, making sure that all the segments are separating the way they should. And we should end up with that. Now at that point, that is all of the tricky bits done. Next step I'm going to take, which isn't in the instructions, is I'm just gonna check it over and give it a little bit of TLC. Add a bit more tape where I think it may need it. If some bits have come apart as it's popped out, we're just going to secure those up. See here, look, this bit ripped, so I'm just going to get a bit of tape. That was our final join. I can see that here. And I'm going to go through and I'm just putting a bit more tape just to hold those bits together. Any bits that have become a bit loose. As I say, that final join, we couldn't really get good access to it, could we? So making sure those bits are joined together. It does tend to come a bit loose at the top, so a little bit more tape in here. Just to solid it together. That looks pretty all right. There are a few gaps, but we can tidy those up as we go. Okay, now at this point, this bit is done for the moment, so we're going to put that to one side. And we are going to get our next bit, which is our stalk side and our stalk top, our top one and our top two. So first, let's do top one, top two. Okay, so this is top one, this is top two, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to use my hot glue gun. I'm going to put a bit of glue around the sides, put one on top of the other. If you want to be really nitpicky, it's good to get the grains running in different ways because that will make it stronger. But once they're together, that's that bit done. I'm just going to squash it, round it off. And you'll see why in a little bit, but I'm just rounding that shape off. I'm not losing the circle, I'm just making it have a little bit more give. Put that to one side. So this is my stalk side, and it needs to have a fold in it. So it should just fold in half like so. So it was like this, and I folded it in half. That's easier done because of the grain direction. I've set the grain going in that direction. It means it wants to fold that way. This is my stalk side. I'm just going to pre-roll that bit. I'm going to do that same squashing technique. I'm going to go around all of those edges, squash them down. I'm going to get a little bit of tape. We don't need half as much as we had before, but this pointy end goes into that bit there. Okay, so I'm going to put a bit of tape just to hold it in place. We're using this tape as an extra pair of hands. We're not going to be using it as a solid permanent join. It's my extra pair of hands so that I can get it all together and then secure it with the glue gun. And there, I've put that stalk top in there and I'm just taping it in to make it a little bit more secure. Once I'm happy with that, at this stage, I'm going to get my glue gun and I'm just running down those inside joints. So you can see what I've done there. I've just put a bit of glue in there. Take a moment. Enjoy the sunshine. Tell your wife you love her. All those wonderful things. Just take a second. Right, that should be long enough. And then this, we're going to continue that curve along that edge. So it's going to end up like this as a closed unit. Bit more tape. Again, we don't need a huge amount. Just making sure all the bits are stick together, should be stuck together, are held together temporarily with this tape. Now getting the glue in there is going to be a bit of a pain, but we have a little technique we can use that sometimes makes a little bit of a mess, but has never let me down. So that is the end product we want. There's a little bit of a gap there. Let me just close that off with a tiny bit of tape. There we go. Ooh. I'm going to end up, but what I'm going to do, just to secure it, the old dribble and pray. So I'm just going to pour in some glue along that join. This glue gun's been on for a while. It took me about half an hour to do all of that taping. So the hot glue should just flow down there, filling in those joints. Okay, so I put some hot glue here and it's just slowly flowing down there, joining those two sides together. Super strong. There we go. I'm just going to give that a second just to dry. Then You can see that triangle hole in top 2. I'm going to put some glue in there, and it should be the perfect size, and it is almost by design for the stalk base just to sit in like that. And again, let's just wait for that to dry. So that will be our stalk. There we go. Now I'm going to leave this just for, it just feels a little bit warm, so I'm just going to give that a little bit longer just to properly cure in place. Let me just put these to the side, and I will show you very quickly the headband. Now the headband is to your personal taste. I've had a few people message me saying that they found that they didn't need it. It's also quite thick. It's also quite long. That is mainly because I have got a gigantic head. So as I say, it's to fit you, so it's to go around your head. Some people like the thickness a bit less, sometimes the thickness is more. As always with these patterns, I've erred on the side of making them too big. It's much easier to make them smaller if that's your taste than it is to make them too big. So there we go, I've just added that bit, and I'm gonna, so it's gonna be about there. About an inch too small for me, if anybody's checking. I've never been accused of having a small head. So that fits me fine and looks quite dashing, I may say. Let me just put that to one side. Also get all these glue cobwebs off of me. Don't know if you can see them, but they exist. Right, so this is our pumpkin stalk. And what we're going to do with this is this goes up through here and goes out of that hole at the top. So it will look a bit like that. But what I want to do is, before I do that, put some glue around the edge. Now this is a good opportunity to try and set the size of your pumpkin. I'm pretty happy with the way it's just sitting there, but if you wanted yours to be a bit more squat, then you could push it down and then glue this bit in place, and it will act as like a keystone and hold it together a bit more. So I'm going to pop that through there, careful because it has got hot glue on it. And I'm just going to hold that in place as it dries. There's a lot of these sort of holding it in place jobs. So I don't know if you can see that, it's just gone up through that hole. So all the glue is sticking to the top of those side bits and will, as I say, act as this keystone just to hold it in place. I sometimes say that the closest thing I get to a bit of time off is waiting for my hot glue gun to dry. So there we go. I'm going to leave that there, but again, it's still a little bit wet. You're better off leaving it a little bit longer than you think you need to let it cure properly, because you want it to be strong. But that feels like it's a pretty good place. But put that to one side. Let's go back to our headband. Now the way that this attaches is through these headband supports. There are 4 of them, and no one's going to see them, so placement and appearance of them is not really that important. But I'm pre-bending them, getting all those curves in there. And I'm just going to sort of place them equal distance around the headband on the outside. So a bit of glue. What's that? About 3 centimetres down I'm attaching them. There we go. And equal distances around. If they're different elements of, if one's 3 centimetres in and the other's 5 might be a bit too much. But if one's 2.5 and one's 2, that's fine. It's a hidden part. It's a functional hidden part. So just like me, it doesn't need to be pretty. Okay? Put that to the side to dry. Back to our pumpkin. So that feels pretty good. Now, as I say, a few people said they didn't even need the headband. You can sort of see what, but it does have a bit of a wobble if you don't have that. But you know, there's some character in there, isn't there? There's a bit of character in that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go around and give it a little bit of TLC, and it looks pretty good. I'm going to take my glue gun and I'm just going to go around with it. Let me take my trusty spoon and I'm going to just run it along the inside of these joins, okay? I probably won't do these the interior joins, the mountain joins as they are, but I will go through and do the valley joins on there just to hold them together, because then I can peel the tape from the outside of it. It'll give it a nicer finish. This can be a fiddly job. It's working with hot glue, so do be careful. Take it slow, get it right. Take it slow. Just put the glue in there, and then I'm gonna pinch it together, hold it together. This is a great thing to do when you've got a great Halloween movie on, because it's going to be a lot of glue, hold, glue, hold, glue, hold. There we go. So I'm just going to let that dry for a moment. I will say we had a few more gaps than I was expecting, especially towards the top here. So I maybe should have put more tape on towards the top of that area before as I was making it. But you know, you live and you learn. But I have had quite a lot of hot glue spill out onto my cutting mat, which is fine because that is what a cutting mat is for. But do be wary at home. I don't want any getting on anyone's carpet. So let's go through and let's take all the tape off, which I will almost certainly speed up as well because it's another long-winded one. Get those TV shows on. Get an audiobook playing. So there you have it. All the tape removed and looking wonderful and smooth and lovely. There were a few bits that sort of had come away in the process, so I just touched them up with the tape. I'm going to leave all the tape on the inside and not bother gluing those. You can go through and glue them if you really like. It's just, it takes a long time and you don't really gain a lot. It makes it a bit more durable, but not a huge amount. There are a few imperfections where the tape caught, you can see here and here, but they'll go away when we decorate. A lot of people have been covering these in papier-mâché. I sort of think they hope they work as well. It's sort of cardboardy monstery, isn't it? That's my taste. But there you go, pumpkin. So the next step is to find what you think is the best bit to be your front. I think I'm going to go with, let's go with that. That's my front. Okay. Now there is no pattern at all, or there's no layout, sorry, at all on the pattern for face, smile, anything like that. That's because we want you to come up with your own carving of the pumpkin yourself. Now, I would recommend getting yourself a pencil and sketching out what you want it to look like. Just a rough idea. I think I'm going to go with something a little bit sort of different. Now, it occurs to me as well that I've done this in a slightly different order to how it is in the written instructions, in that I believe we carve the pumpkin before we glue it, and there's a reason for that, but this way around works just as well. The reason is that when we cut these sections out, I think I'm just going to go with two eyes for this one. So I've got my craft knife with a sharp blade on it. I'm being really careful. The reason for that, sorry, as I was saying, is that glue, when you get to glue bits like I have just here, I've got to the glue where I have there, it's just tougher. It's just tougher to cut through. And if you're working doing this as an exercise with young people, it can be a pain. But if you're doing it with them, get them to draw it on when you get to those sections. You just take over. It's not insurmountable. It's just a little bit more tricky. But as I say, I'm going to go a little bit out of order. Always worth keeping hold of these as well. I mean, am I crazy? Am I crazy to just stick them on his little ears? Yeah, don't do it, don't do it. Headband. So the way this is going to work, I've got it stitched on my head, and I'm going to put some glue on these, and that they are going to stick onto there. So they're almost like little connectors. As I say, a few people have messaged me saying that they haven't even bothered with this, but it's part of the pattern. It makes it a bit more secure. People's heads are different shapes and sizes. It's worth adding, I think. Right, so I'm going to put a bit of glue on here. I'm going to do these two at a time. So I'm going to do front and back. And then I will show you what I'm doing when I get in there. But I also have said in the pattern that it is sometimes worth just taping these in place to begin with, because getting the placement exactly right can be tricky. But you know what? I'm throwing caution to the wind. Doing caution to the wind on this. Watch, I'll get it wrong. I'll get it wrong. Let me add a bit of tape in there. It's a bit tricky, this bit. As soon as you get the inside, it's just reaching into things, isn't it? It just becomes a little bit more fiddly. Let's try that out. That's pretty okay. That's pretty alright. Let's get those back ones done as well. As I say, nobody is going to see inside other than you and whoever you're making this with and all for. So don't worry too much about it being gorgeous on the inside. So the next thing we're going to need is tights. Okay, so we have that. So that's our tight. And as you can see through it. Now, one of my tips for this is the tighter you pull it, the more transparent it will be. So you'll be able to see through it like that, but if I pull it really tight, you'll be able to see through much, much more. So the tighter it is on there, the easier you'll be able to see through it. And that, you know, depending on the types of tights you've got, that can range from not really that important to super important. These, not hugely important. But before I do that, let me see if I can show you the headband and how I've attached. So it's not completely neat, but you can see here, let me get a stick. But what I've done is I put the glue on those things and the supports, and those supports have stuck to the sides. It looks a little bit wonky, but when I put it on, it's glorious, okay? And it allows me to move my head, look up, look down, and all these sorts of things, which is a level of control we didn't have earlier. Now, before I stick these on, I'm just going to get my marker, and I'm just going to go around the eye just to tidy that up. So there's a little bit of detail on there before I stick it on. So much of these sort of craft things is about knowing the order in which to do things, isn't it? And I just think once I get the tights in there, I could get pen on the tights, which as it's sort of black on black, it doesn't make a huge issue, but you never know, do you? You never know. Am I going to keep it? I might give myself just some. I didn't sleep very well last night, so I'm going to give myself just some little bags. Oh, I'm getting distracted. I should be sticking these tights on. It's the little decoration bit that I really love. This is the bit where I really want to... Oh, I wish I'd not done that now. Oh well, you won't tell anyone, will you? Tights. So on the inside, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some glue just around the top bit here. So I'm going to go here and here, and I'm going to stick my tights on it. Then I'm going to pull that, wait for that to dry, and pull the tights down quite tight before I do the bottom part. Okay. Again, it's on the inside. It can afford to be a little bit messy. There we Okay, give that a second to set, and whilst that's doing that, let's have a look at it from the front. So I have got a little bit of hot glue, and it really does show on these, but I could get a bit of black acrylic paint to colour that in. What do you think? Not too bad, is it? Boo. And that is our cardboard pumpkin head pattern. I hope you have enjoyed this. I hope this has answered any unanswered questions you have. If you do have any other questions, I am always willing to help. Do leave a comment below, and please do like and subscribe. We've got some really exciting stuff coming out on the YouTube this month, including the Lostopus, which is our digital series which we've been working on for 2 years, and we're also going to be launching a workshop connected to that where you'll get to learn how to make Artie, who is a glove puppet made entirely out of cardboard. So you can learn to make her as well at the workshop, all coming out soon. I hope you've had fun. Please like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Bye.